Good evening, everybody. It is the end of September where we round up the top questions of the month of September 2023 on the Overwatch University subreddit. Cue the intro. Okay, the top filtered question for the past month is, what's up with the sudden surge of Dooms seemingly out of nowhere? My first instinct of the surge of Doomfist is the fall of Sombra a little bit. She was nerfed mostly at the beginning of Season 6 where, the uptime for the EMP got nerfed a little bit. So with less Sombras being played, it meant Doom was able to come back out of the woodworks. And believe it or not, it was the Bastion that became so strong, and the Bastion becoming strong made Winston one of the harder dive tanks to play, and Doomfist has a much better way to get in and out. If you're jumping in as Winston, you sort of have to commit if you're going in deep, and the Bastion can blast through his bubble, making it very difficult to play. With Doomfist, if he does go in, the power block is enough where he could tank quite a bit, and then even if he just slams in and then holds the block, if they do enough damage, he gets a free punch out. So he can go in and out. And yeah, Doom has always just been a pretty popular hero as well. Also, Doom did get buffed, I think, at the end of mid-season 5. There was a time where, or was it Season 6? Maybe it was also this season as well. They gave him one less second on the seismic slam from 7 to 6 seconds, which means he's able to have higher mobility. It doesn't seem like much when you say 1 second, but relatively speaking, percentage-wise, it is a little bit faster, which means he does get more over health as well, the green HP, if he does hit something. So all of those things combined sort of made Doomfist rise up again. In addition, they also did give him more damage resistance to some annoying matchups, such as the Echo Sticky Bombs, the Tracer Pulse Bomb, and the Cast Nade. If he blocks after the fact, he was able to, tank the whole thing, because Tracer was everywhere as well, right, in the previous seasons. And if you get stuck by Tracer as Doom, because when he's power blocking, he's pretty much standing still, so good Tracer was able to stick him and pretty much get a kill every time. All those things made Doomfist rise up. Next question. How do you deal with super aggressive dive Junkrat? So I've been a believer that the dive, flanky dive Junkrat, is a superior style than the spam a choke style. The spam a choke style, very old 2016 to 2018 metal rank Junkrat playstyle, and I think good Junkrats have learned to evolve to control space in small tight rooms and or set up a mine and then double triple jump over the fact, flank, get a kill, drop a rip tire in the backline. That stuff is very, very powerful, the assassin style. So how do you deal with it? Anticipation. You can fall for it once, but that's okay. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me, right? I remember this game on Shambali that Junkrats pretty much all have the similar playstyle in the elo that I play at. And I literally called out to my team, this Junk has killed us three times already. Doing this dive in the backline. He goes for me, so we could. I remember instructing my team on the Shambali game 2 weeks ago. I was like, we're gonna go up, we're gonna take 3 steps back, and then I'm just gonna ping the Junkrat because I know he's coming over the roof, and he did, and then we killed him. So just anticipation. You have to adapt. Question number 3 of the month is, why does Ashe's gun feel so terrible? Is it really that terrible? I don't know. I feel like Ashe's gun feels fine to me. It might just be a scope in sensitivity that you may not like at this time, relative sensitivity. So what most people have sort of adopted, at least I have, is the 51.6, something like that. As long as you have around 51 relative scope sensitivity, it feels apparently similar enough to the scope, the distance. If I move my mouse a certain distance, my screen moves a certain distance, and the scoped 51 sensor is relatively similar to the unscoped. At the end of the day, people do play on their own relative scope senses, but that could be step 1 if you don't like the way that feels. Although this is a little vague, so maybe you're talking about the reload, which also got adjusted. It actually feels better now since they buffed Ashe in the mid-season with the faster reload, especially after the kill. So I'm a little confused on why it feels terrible. It may just be a personal thing. At the end of the day, some heroes just feel clunky to some people because it just doesn't suit them. I remember when I first played Baptiste, I found him clunky, but then, the gun felt better over time as well. There is also one setting called recoil recovery aim compensation. That's the setting. That's what it's called. I have a video that I made back in the day called Overwatch 2 Best Settings where I explain it. I have it on by default, and I think most people prefer it on, but if that feels weird to you, you could turn it off at 103 FOV. So if you play on different resolutions, so here, you can keep that off. You don't want to ever have to press the button. It was 51.4% now that I zoned it out a little bit. And here we go. Here's a better angle of it, where we see relative aim sensitivity 51.4, and there's also the recoil aim compensation. I'll explain what it does in a second, or I'll let old me in this video explain what it does. Zoom in. The second one is the relative aim sensitivity while zoomed. I actually just copied this number from some Reddit post a long time ago that explained that this sensitivity, 51.47%, is the closest matching sensitivity to the unscoped versus scoped version. I'm pretty sure this only works with a 16:9 resolution at 103 FOV, so if you play on different resolution settings, this might change for you, but I got used to this long time ago, and I think this one's fine. And this last setting is called Recoil Recovery Aim Compensation, and it's kind of hard to explain using Ashe as an example, but trust me, you want it off for her specifically. I actually have it on the other heroes, Cassidy and Widowmaker. Oh, I meant off then.
Those sections for a longer explanation of what it does.
Okay. Old me told me to go check this to refer to see what it means. Okay, some people have this setting. I'm gonna let old me in this video explain it one more time.
Setting on for now, and this is what Cassidy's recoil looks like. Every time I shoot, there's a little kick up, camera shake, and it comes back down to where your reticle is. Now what we're gonna do is mark the two endpoints of where your reticle is and where the top of that recoil animation is. If I flick to the left training bot's head with recoil compensation on in the middle of the animation, it's going to try to bring number 2 to the head because that's where my crosshair is, but it's going to compensate and lift it up and then finish the downward animation of the recoil and have my crosshair end up at number 1 over the head where I originally wanted to aim. And here it is where I quickly shoot and move my crosshair horizontally as best as I can, and it's pretty even on the x-axis, right? It is still over the head. Okay, now let's try recoil compensation off. Now my aim stays true to my crosshair and the game will not compensate the recoil animation, meaning if I flick to the left, just like before, let's animate the same, and now at number 2, the second marker, that's where my crosshair is, it's gonna stay there, finish the downward animation, and then lower my crosshair to number 1, where now I'm actually aiming at the chest. Here it is in real time. I'm going as best as I can on the x-axis just like I was before, but the aim is pulling my crosshair down during the rest of the animation. So for Cassidy specifically, I actually really like this setting on, the default one, although some other players may argue it's better off. I like it on. You should try both.
A little bit of a long one, but in short, the game will compensate for the recoil animation or not. And with the way Ashe operates and the way she shoots, right, her little kick up is not very minor. So if I like hit one person and I swing to the left or the right, if I keep the setting on, it will compensate and keep my crosshair where I originally wanted it. If it's off, it will bring it a little lower if I swing to the left or right. The explanation is one thing, but all you have to do is just go into the training range and do what I did here. Try it out by shooting once in the middle and then flicking either left or the right in the middle of the animation. But that also might be the reason why it might feel terrible to you, because you're a person that prefers the setting off, but you have it on because Overwatch keeps all those settings on by default. Is it the tank's job to dive the enemy Widow? This actually depends on the tank, and it depends on where the Widow is playing. Wrecking Ball and Doomfist actually have one of the longest reaches, so I would say yes. If you're a Winston and the Widowmaker is playing 2 leaps away, you're not going to be able to, you can't just dive once and then wait for your cooldown and then jump again, because like you just have so much zero downtime there where you're doing nothing, where the Widow just is able to play. For example, Ilios Runes, you're playing Winston on this map and they're playing in that, that middle thing with the Mega down there and you're on the point. Like, it's too hard for you to spend, 12 seconds to make your way up to the Widow. So it's not your job as Winston to go up there. But someone like Doom or Ball can reach her. It just depends how effective the Widow is. Generally speaking, it's the Widow should be contested by someone who's, the easiest person to do it. So if you're on another Widow, you have to pressure the enemy Widow. It's the Widow versus Widow duel. If you're Genji, I would say Genji is high priority, yes. Tracer, a bit more map dependent if she can make it up there. And if you're, I don't know, on support, Kiriko can actually shoot her a little bit if she's not paying attention, because you have no fall off damage with the kunais. Even Ana, if you have a shield in front, but be careful with that one because you can get pressured on that. So that's the answer for that. Next question: is there a reason that my aim on Illari is much better than every other hitscan character that I play? This sounds just like a psychological thing, more so than anything, because the relative aim sensitivity should be the same on all heroes, unless you have a different sensitivity setting, because you can do that. And some people may not realize they accidentally set a different sensitivity custom by accident, but they all should feel the same. I think her I'm not sure, maybe her projectile is a little bit bigger. I don't know if that's actually true or not, to be completely honest with you. I think intuitively it should be because it's a beam of light. The fire rate might feel a bit more like in sync with your, you know, how you play the game. There may be like another layer deeper of it, but like sometimes there's just going to be heroes that just you feel like you hit everything, but some heroes you don't. For example, when I play Ana and Widow, I have the same scope sensitivity and everything, but like Ana, I'm pretty accurate with it, but for a hero like Widow, I'm like awful. Just a little bit of a psychological play. Is the actual shot size the same? Not actually sure, to be completely honest with you. Yeah. Is there a requirement to push the robot during overtime if you are winning? So this will depend on the distance of where the enemy spawn is and if they can touch during overtime. Sometimes there will be cases where you don't want to push the robot anymore simply because they don't have anybody to touch and you can let the time run out. If you're in overtime and or you're getting close to the end of the match and you're in the lead, one strategy is to leave the robot so that they can't make it. Remember, when the robot passes through the midpoint of any push map, their spawn gets pushed to the further back one. If they're hugging on, you know, your side, they get the closer spawn. So one strat is like, if you're gonna keep the robot like on your half, like just don't bring it any closer. Don't pass that midpoint or else it changes it. Or sorry, excuse me. You want to push it back the midpoint just slightly to push the people, the stragglers, to get the long spawn. If the robot's on your side, you have the lead, you just wipe them. You just don't even have to push a period. They do have the secondary closer spawn, but like they still have to travel a distance back to where you guys are playing. So yeah, this also depends. Next question. Why are people so obsessed with your raw healing number as Ana? I wouldn't say everyone's obsessed with it. There are some scoreboard sallies at every rank for sure, but I wouldn't worry so much about the numbers. People are obsessed with it because they try to nitpick anything, really. If they ever feel like something's going wrong, they'll look at someone who looks like they're lacking in any sort of department, whether it's damage or healing, and just point it out. But the scoreboard doesn't tell the full story. It can paint a very broad picture, and it can depict on your playstyle. If you have an Ana that's 6,000 damage, 2,000 healing, yeah, evidently they're just foregoing any sort of healing and just going for DPS, which can work if done right. Yeah, I wouldn't worry so much about the raw healing number. Why are they? Like I said, they'll look for anything. It's not even just an Ana raw healing. If you have like a tank with low damage, or you have a Zen with low healing, or like a Illari with not enough damage, people will point anything out. So yeah. Why don't tanks swap to a shield tank? Because shield tanks aren't always necessary to win the game. It's a common trap to think that, you know, this is not Overwatch 1 where you need a front-facing shield. A lot of people kind of this is kind of like a armchair psychologist thing, or maybe is that the right term for it? But or a hot take, excuse me, where I actually think players got worse in double shield in 2019 because they like forgot how to use natural cover. They got so accustomed to having two shields in front of them, they just don't know how to use natural cover. So people who complain about not having a shield tank just don't know how to play sightlines and don't know how to use the car, the pole, the tree in front of them as a way to jiggle and hide their hitbox. So yeah, you don't need shield tanks to win. Just simply use different angles, my friends. Why do people hate Moira so much? Might be people just don't know how to play the game, skill issues. People hate Moira so much because she is a low skill floor ceiling, which means you can kind of just play her and get a very good baseline value because her healing is reliable. The orbs kind of just can bounce randomly, get random kills, and she's a free escape with fade, and the suck is a very forgiving hitbox. So you just need rough aim, like not even great precision on tracking, and you can be pretty effective in the game. And I think the people that hate Moira get frustrated when they feel like, oh, she offers no utility except that. Especially at the higher ranks, people hate Moira more because like they feel like if you're skilled at support, you could play things like Ana and get more higher value things like landing sleep darts and anti-nades and good BAP lamps, good DPS output. But like I think the hate is a little unwarranted. I think she is very good in her own right. I think the game needs heroes that are low skill floor and lower skill ceiling in terms of skill representation, and I think that applies to Moira. The only biggest skill representation for Moira is like unique fade jumps. Other than that, you're playing completely based on decision making, on how you use your orbs, and the angles you take, whether you decide to like flank and go for the backline, good coalescence timing, all that fun stuff. Moira is still actually very viable with Lucio on some certain maps. Some high level teams will play it, but I guess in ranked play, Moira doesn't synergize so much as well with other supports besides Lucio. So then people will also be like, oh, we're not playing like a support synergy. So then they just dislike having one on their team. I've never actually been a Moira hater. In fact, I think Moira is like a strong ranked hero, to be honest with you. And people will also hate Moira simply because she will also pad the stats quite a bit. They'll be like, how's this Moira have so much damage? Well, it's because you're just chucking damage orbs, sucking people, and then you're just getting, you rack up the damage. And you also self-heal quite a bit if you take a little bit of poke back in a duel. So you get both high damage and high healing. So then some people will be like, well, and then also some Moira players will get a little, well, not all of them, but like when people complain about Moira for unwarranted reasons, the Moira will also have like the wrong reason response, which is like, well, look at my numbers. I have more damage in our DPS and I still have more healing than the other support. Therefore, I am being an effective Moira, which in both cases, you know, number one, the unwarranted hate I don't think is unwarranted in some cases, but number two, the rebuttal is also incorrect in the way they kind of like, it's a lot of stat padding. So you get to fluff your stats quite a bit on this hero. So there's two. So basically numbers high equals I'm carrying, which is what Moira players will say. And then other people will say, well, because of this, blah, 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 no synergy. But Moira is simply just existing. I think she's fine. She has a pretty decent win rate. There's a couple of Moira players that are in top 500 and are pretty solid. You just I've always been a proponent on play what you're good at more so than anything. We're playing ranked. We're not an Overwatch league. Even in top 500 games, I just had a Moira last game. We won. And I played against the same Moira the game before and I lost against her. It is what it is, man. How do you carry a hopeless match as a support? If you define hopeless as like, you know, you're getting stomped, at some point you can try, you know, being a little proactive with an aggressive nade and being a playmaker as a Baptiste, trying to go for some kills. But some games are actually just lost. You can't win every single game. If you had a 100% win rate, I mean, you'd be in Overwatch League. You'd be at the highest rank 1, right? So you can't win every game. If it's a hopeless match, just GG, go next. The playmaking potential comes from like an aggressive play, though. You can try complete comp swap, and try to kill someone yourself. So good anti-nade from Ana, Bap solo kills, even Kiriko. Just assassinate somebody in the back, TP out. That's something to consider. Okay, a few more questions here from the month. Am I coping, or is this meta just bad for Tracer? So this was 19 days ago before the midseason patch, and this was true. Torbjorn got buffed this season as well. Torbjorn is a natural Tracer deterrent. Orisa became meta at 19 days ago in the previous patch, which means, you know, as Tracer, you don't really shoot the Orisa like ever. Too much armor, not enough consistent damage, can't headshot. The backline consists of, Bap, Illari. Bap is very hard to kill for Tracer. Illari a little bit easier if the pylon's not set up, but like if they run Bastion, Torb, Orisa, and they all clump up and the Bap Illari are playing together, it will be a little bit more difficult, that specific meta. Good Tracers will be able to figure out a way around it. Tracer is still being played quite a bit at top 500. Not as much as the other ones, but the Tracer can farm and then stick the Bastion, because Bastion is a very easy stick target for Tracer as well. But this was 19 days ago. It's a little bit of an older question. Right now, Zarya has been being played a lot more. Doomfist is being played a lot, and because Doomfist is being played a lot, like Tracer is still fine. As if you all commit to it, it's pretty decent. You know, Doomfist, Tracer, Genji, or Tracer Sombra, and you just jump the Illari. You just pick the easiest target. You have to pick the right targets. Why am I targeted only as Baptiste? This is probably a comp specific thing. Baptiste does have lamp, does have regen burst, but like he's not that slippery. So like this is in general. Like, even if you're playing Ana, even if you're playing Bap, you will be the target in a lot of cases. I remember I had a game yesterday on Route 66 where we had like Diva, Echo, Sojourn, whatever. I knew I was going to be the #1 target. If you're playing support, you're going to get jumped. And I would argue that BAP is one of the easier ones to survive because you do have 2 tools to keep yourself up as compared to other ones. Does Tracer feel weaker to this patch to you guys? Tracer herself is not weak. It's just the other heroes are a little bit more of a difficult matchup, but good Tracer players can still play around it. So yeah. What can I pick against Zarya Bastion? You have to wait for the bubble, wait for the rotation. You can mirror it, #1 or #2. I think flyers are actually still okay. Yes, Bastion is a hit scan, but when he's transformed with the bubble to be enabled, anybody really, like this specific, it's less about a composition thing, but like natural cover is your friend, #1. People think, you know, why don't you play shield tanks? This is also like natural cover is your best friend against this. Flyers are not bad. Wait for the rotation, mirror it. I think Sigma poke is okay against this too, is it not? Even you can even still play like Orisa against this stuff with like an Orisa poke comp. You just have to spin when Bastion's in the transform, go into natural cover, wait. Bastion's a very on and off hero, and now that they nerf the transform armor, he's a lot easier to manage. I've seen a lot less Bastions now. How do you ideally engage as Winston? And how are you supposed to play with him as a support / DPS? Ideal engagement on Winston, people think that you immediately have to jump into their backline, but that's not always correct. If they have like a Ana, Brig, Bastion in their backline, all three of them, like you're not supposed to just raw dog it in. A lot of times Winstons are just like slow jumps, a little bit, feel it out, get some space. So for example, easy one I use is like Numbani first point. As Winston, everybody thinks there's a 3-2-1 jump all the way into the back right. But a lot of times what you have to do is like slow jump the first high ground closer to your half, kind of jiggle, feel out where they are, let your Ana build nano boost. A lot of times it actually is just wait to get nano and then fully commit as Winston. And you have to 3-2-1 because you can't just jump their back if you're a Tracer or like your Genji is not in position to follow up as well. So that also leads to how you're supposed to play with him as a support DPS. With support as Ana, you can wait for the nano boost. Don't overcommit because like if you jump in with bubble, you need to be able to survive 6 seconds for you to get back, jump back out if you can't convert any kills. So with the support as Ana, you farm nano. With DPSs, you wait and you 3-2-1. That is the ideal way to play it, and which is one of the reasons why I always Winston is actually notoriously bad in like bronze, silver, and gold. If you look at the stats, I'm pretty sure he has one of the worst win rates in there, and it just gets better as you climb up, simply because people are not coordinated to follow up with Winston at all, and their jumps are not great. Their commitments, they have commitment issues down there, like you, chat. As a support, how do I fight against Soldier Bastion? I mean, you're a support. You're not supposed to like over peak too hard against these two hit scans. They can rip you apart, right? So like as a support, if they're not looking, you can jiggle against it. As a Baptiste, when Bastion can only shoot one person at a time, when I play Baptiste, I'm able to burst down Bastion because he's got a giant hitbox. Soldier's a little harder if he's jiggling and standing left and strafing while he's sitting in the heal pad. At the end of the day, you don't stay in the open against these two hit scans. They're DPSs for a reason, right? You take opportunities as they come. If they're not looking, they're not paying attention. You look for a big anti-nade. You peek with a 5-orb as Zenyatta. But yeah, as a support, people think like you're able to challenge every single hero in a 1v1, but like realistically you're not. You just play around your tools and their strengths and their timing. If a soldier's sitting on the heal pad and he's got visor or he's looking at you with helix, like, you know, don't stay in the sight lines. Same with Bastion. All right, and I think that's pretty good. We answered a lot of questions on Reddit. See you guys next month.